away by the larger society. I want you to listen at Mary pray first in my voice, and then I want my sister to come and read her pray in Mary's voice, in the Latino voice. My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior. For he hath regarded the lower estate of his handmaiden. For behold, henceforth all generations shall call me blessed. For he who is mighty has done great things for me, and holy is his name, and his mercy is on those who fear him from generation to generation. Now, my sister's going to help me, because I know. Would you read?
E exultavit spiritus meus in Deo Salvatore meo, quia respexit humilitatem ancillae suau, exe enim ex hoc beatam medicent omnes generationes, quia fecit mihi magna, qui potens est, sanctum nomen eos misericordia eos in progenis dimentibus eum fecit potentiam en priacio suo, dispersit superbos mente cordis sui, deposuit potentes de sede, et exaltavit humiles.
Thank you so much. Now you see that? Was that all right? You see, and I want to understand that it's not necessary as we grow for me to have the pretense of trying to read it myself. What is necessary is that we demand that the end be open for all of the expressions and all of the voices and the ways in which we declare our faith. The story of Mary and Joseph and Jesus represents the move of God's grace over against the backdrop of bad, regressive government policy. The oppressive government of that moment didn't care about a poor family and a teenage girl pregnant with no support. All they wanted was their money, their taxes. All they wanted was their taxes. All they wanted was their labor. All they wanted was to set up a system to guarantee that the taxes came in. The wealthy and the elite were more important than Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. They were seen as just pawns in a vicious political scheme to ensure power of a few regardless of the needs of the many. The same government, my brother said it, did not want them to have dignity, worth, and recognition as fellow citizens with a common humanity. It was not safe during the first Christmas to be different from the Roman Empire. If you were not Roman, you didn't mean much. You were seen as a tool to be used, not a person to be respected. It was in this Christmas context that Jesus was born 2,000 years ago, the eve of his birth. Mary and Joseph experienced the same extreme alienation that we have heard from this pulpit today. They were not welcome. But not only were they not welcome in the stratification of Roman policy, they were unwelcome in Bethlehem, which is a whole different kind of unwelcomeness. Yeah. It's one thing for Rome not to welcome, but they were not welcome even in their own city, the city of their lineage. Even the innkeeper in the city of their lineage had given in to the political pressures and dominant realities and denied them a welcome to come in. Mary and Joseph, who were marginalized and pressed by the government and the society of that day, were also pushed out by their own country people in their time of greatest need. And what is sad about the story is only a manger, a stable, and animals would welcome them. In the midst of a culture quick to label people as aliens, one writer says Jesus represents backdoor divinity. Jesus came through the back door to identify with the oppressed and to challenge those who take God's world and act as if it is their own. When Jesus came, he found no room in the inn. The dominant culture did not welcome him in. He was left on the outside. The rules of politics and fears of leaders exiled him in the very world that God sent him to declare he loved. Christmas. And this is what is so tragic about the voting down of the DREAM Act, that we would say not only to Senator Hagin, but also to Senator Burr.
That's right.
Both of them. The tragedy is that Christmas is not meant to be a time simply of bows and ribbons and temporary graciousness. This ought to be a time when we think deeply and contritely about who we are as a people, a society, a government, when we are measured by the standards of justice, love, and mercy. This ought to be a time when we, from preachers to senators to presidents, look at ourselves and our policies and ask whether we're going to be like the innkeeper or like the manger. The innkeeper pushed them out. The manger welcomed them in. The manger in the biblical story is an inanimate object. It is sad when an inanimate object was more receiving and gracious than an innkeeper who was a flesh and blood individual. It is a sad day when these steps will welcome us. An inanimate object with no brain, no soul. These steps haven't said this morning, get off. These steps haven't said you couldn't stand here. It is a sad day when steps and inanimate objects are more welcoming than people with a conscience who've been created by God. So that's where we are today. And when we come on this particular day and think about the reality of our existence, Dr. Tyson, this past week, both of our senators, and I want to call both of them, both of our senators, because there's a time you're not supposed to be Republican or Democrat. You should be focused on what's right and what's best for all people. They shamefully voted against the DREAM Act, which would have provided a pathway to citizenship for children of undocumented workers. How do you vote against allowing children to dream in America? Our senators should have supported the DREAM Act. Our vision of one North Carolina has no room for the know-nothing scapegoating of yesterday. You know, there was a party back in the 1800s called the Know Nothing. And their whole reason for existence was to push people out and to push immigrants out. And it was a thin Illinois senator who stood up to the Know Nothing party, named Abraham Lincoln, and ran against them and pushed back against them. We should be ashamed to deny equal education and human rights to young people who have worked their way through our school system. We should be ashamed to have an innkeeper mentality that keeps sending people to the stable rather than welcoming them in to our culture and in our society and to dream. We should not do the wrong thing, and then call it the right thing. That's what these senators have done, the wrong thing, but they're trying to call it the right thing. Martin Luther King said we should be thermometers that change, not thermometers that simply measure the temperature, but we should be thermostats that change the temperature. That's what we should be as real leaders. And that's why not only in reference to the DREAM Act should we do what's right, but when it comes to providing every child red, yellow, black, brown, and white, a high-quality, constitutional, well-funded, diverse public education, we should make this dream a reality too. There are few matters on which experts agree many times, but in the area of education, educational experts agree that no school district in America has managed to create equal education on a large scale in segregated or resegregated schools, be they black or Hispanic. The bottom line is that students who attend schools that are resegregated by race and income consistently rank lower in educational achievement, especially in the secondary school level. In short, we can't afford to resegregate and separate schools. The students most likely to find themselves in schools of concentrated poverty and underfunding are black and Latino. We cannot accept this and must join the forces of all people of goodwill to challenge it here in Wake County or in North Carolina or anywhere in this country. Someone asked me today about this recent hire of the Wake County School Board. What did I think? Well, we're doing a little investigation. They said, well, we're bringing in an ex-general. And I said, well, that's not what really matters. Because the issue is, where's the general going to lead us? He's been listening to Ann Coulter. Where is he going to lead us? He's been listening to Beck and O'Reilly and blogging. An ex-general writing openly negative things about the commander-in-chief of these United States. Where is he going to lead? And somebody said, well, Rambo, why are you thinking like this? Because we know of another ex-general. 1953-54, his name was Eisenhower. And that ex-general lobbied the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at that time not to vote for Brown, not to vote in favor, and never really endorsed Brown versus Board of Education after it was made law by the Supreme Court. So the question is, even if you're a general in the Army or in the Marines, you have to be trained in the tactics of warfare. So how can you lead a school system and not be trained in the best kind of educational policy? Those are some serious questions we've got to ask. When we see right in this county the kind of splitting and divisiveness that's going on, the kind of bullying that's going on. When people say we've hired the best, how do we know? We don't even know who was on the list. We don't know who else was there. Yep. And so in this time in which we live, we have to remember that this last election was about promoting fear rather than moving forward and opening up the end. And instead of tearing God's family apart, we have to bring God's family together. We must open up the end. When we can pass defense bills and not pass bills that defend and protect fundamental notions of humanity, something is wrong. Rome did that. And in the long reach of history, it cost Rome dearly. We hear the deafening cry for tax cuts, which is but another way of closing the end. Instead of talking about tax cuts, we ought to be talking about investing in those things like education and healthcare and jobs. We should be giving life and hope. Open up the end. Let it not be said that we made the same sinful mistakes that Rome, the innkeeper, and Herod made when they pushed out, brutalized, segregated, scapegoated, separated, and banned those people who were different than them, when they chose to oppress rather than relieve. Lord, help us not to lose our humanity in acts of denying humanity. Let us not violate the imago Dei, the image of God that every person possesses. Justice for all, open up the end. That's what we must say to this country and to this community. We must prophetically challenge our government to be a tool of justice and democracy in service to the public, not an instrument of the aristocracy in search of private wealth and their own personal dreams that exclude other people. The DREAM Act may have been voted down. Diversity and student achievement may be under attack in our public schools. But don't stop dreaming.
No!
Don't stop dreaming. Don't stop dreaming. Julian Bond, as I close, the former chair of the NAACP and a SNCC organizer, once shared a story from his grandfather, who was a minister who graduated from Berea College in the 1800s. Berea College was opened by 1855, opened in 1855 in Kentucky, a slave state. Berea College was opened by abolitionists who believed that the end should be open and that we should never say there is no room. It was shut down by the Civil War, but then it reopened again in 1866. And when it opened in 1866 in a former slave state in Kentucky, it had 96 black students and 91 white students. This was before the passage of the 14th and 15th Amendment. This was before the fusion movement here in North Carolina. They had 96 black students and 91 white students, right in the heart